Many organizations, as well as professionals, are faced with severe challenges, which ranges from leveraging new technology for tangible outcomes to unethical practices in the tech sector. Formalizing and abiding by ethical conduct in tech sector is of great importance. Data privacy provides legal safeguards for the processing of personal data. In this package, we are going to be looking at ethical conduct in tech sector. Either you are already established or a startup, there are codes and conduct expected of everyone. If you are in the habit of giving out personal information about a third party, you have to reconsider such act after watching this episode. I have with me in the studio ABOLADE OLAMILEKAN from OGTV community, and together we will serve you today's offering. My name is ABIMBOLA ILORI, and you are watching ICT Today. OLAMILEKAN, glad to have you join me in the studio today.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's been a while that you featured here.
Yes, it
You're
is.
looking good, and it's nice to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, ethical conduct in tech sector. Can we start by educating our viewers what ethical conduct is as far as tech space is concerned?
All right, thank you very much. Let me start by saying every industry, every organization that we belong to have their modus operandi, how you need to act, moral principles that needs to be followed. And technology, or let me say internet now, is now a global market where everybody just wants to plug into. So there are some ethical standards, moral principles that has to be followed when we talk about technology. And these moral standards are something that needs to be imbibed when the use of technology has to come into place. One of which involves, sharing of information and distributing information. It is actually one of the most important things that happens to be one of the greatest vulnerability when it comes to technology, just sharing information. So these are some of the ethical standards that everybody has to know. We understand that technology is now everybody wants to be a tech bro, everybody wants to be a tech sis, but at this point in time, there are some ways that we have to make sure that we are performing optimally, we are following the principles of technology by not sharing vulnerable information, by ensuring that we are abiding by the rules and regulations of the organization that owns the technology software that we use. And let's not also forget that when we're signing up for software solutions, we have terms and conditions. Okay. And I would say most of us don't even read terms and conditions. So if you don't agree, you cannot go for that.
If you want to use that application, you have to just agree.
You have to just agree.
To take the pain to read such agreements.
I can say I don't think there's ever been anybody that has sat down to actually read the terms and conditions of a software.
Never.
So
not in Nigeria.
Not in Nigeria. Yes. Well, maybe abroad, yes. Or maybe when there's a lawsuit to actually face. And one thing we need to know is, looking at it, there are a lot of moral principles that are on these terms and conditions if read carefully, because they've told you what you need to use the technology for. So if you are going against what you need to use the technology for, a lawsuit can be filed against you.
Hold on. We'll get to that. We'll come to that. There are codes that have to be followed.
Yes.
Even when it comes to giving out personal information. So what are the current ethical issues in tech sector? I mean, this is 2024.
All right. Thank you. One of the first thing I will mention is customer privacy violation.
Okay.
Right. That is actually
an issue.
It's a very big issue. Let me give you an example. I don't know. Let's put this into context. We've all been to cases whereby, let's say we go ahead and we want to go and buy. I've seen cases. I want to go and buy boli. We all eat boli. Okay. You want to go and buy boli, or you want to go and buy suya at night, and you get to see people's information from the paper wrap of what you are giving with a boli.
Personal information being used to sell snacks.
Yes, you see some of these. I've seen cases whereby you go ahead and you see people's certificate or people's biodata as as a wrap for snacks, and this actually bad because it is actually customer privacy violation.
Okay.
And now I've gotten so I've gone to a company and I filled my name, my date of birth, my marital, like my personal information that are very private, that are private, that should be private and that should be kept, judiciously by the organization. And at the end of the day, somebody out there that I don't even know is having access to my information. That is actually, that is total.
It's actually unethical.
Unethical, and that is even a physical copy
in this age.
Yes, it is. Okay. That is a physical copy. Now we are talking about bringing this into technology space, right? I have I've actually filled my form on your organization platform, and I filled my entire details. And in the next couple of days, I'm receiving unsolicited messages from people or emails from people I don't even know, meaning that maybe your organization has shared, maybe it might not be the organization, or somebody from the organization has shared my data. To somebody for personal gain. Okay. Which is against the ethical rule. This is against the ethical rule. As far as I've given you my information, and it is solely to you, you don't have the right to give it to another person without my consent. So this is actually very important, and customer data privacy, I think that is one of the biggest that we have, because how secure am I if I give you my information?
Let me come in here. Like when you attend conferences, seminars, and you give out your personal email, your personal mobile number,
yes.
And after a while, you started receiving information even from maybe a sister company or a company or an organization entirely different from where you attended that seminar. Is it the responsibility of the company that held the seminar to put it in the terms of that seminar write-up? Or you as a person, at the moment you sign up for that seminar, you sign up to the vulnerability attached to that seminar?
Well, on this case, I would say it is the responsibility of the organization organizing the conference, because you are to put it there that, at the end of the conference, fine, every conference you have partners, you have people who have sponsored you, and it could have been in your agreement with them that you want to share data, like just to also pitch what you are selling, because every organization wants to sell. They have goals. So to create footprint and all. So it is you who is organizing that conference or that meetup or that webinar to say, you put it in your terms and your agreement to say, we have sister companies that have also been part of this, and you have to agree if you also want your data to be shared with them. I've seen organizations whereby maybe even for employment, right? You apply, and at the end of the day, they will tell you, maybe they will tell you, you have to agree. Should you not pass this interview, or should you not scale through to this interview? Do you want us to keep your data? Or for future references, or we leave it out of our data. It is now your own discussion to say, I can leave it with you in case you have any further information from me. That is an ethical practice. Like, I agree to it. So if anything happens at that point in time, it is me, the user.
No ethical conduct that is being
violated. It is me, the user, who has agreed to actually, I've released my data to you for whatever reasons you want to use it for.
Consumer privacy, AI bias, unequal access to internet. These and many more are the current ethical issues in tech sector. Can we highlight few of these issues and consumers and data privacy, as for instance?
One of these very much issues about consumer privacy, I'd say
you've actually talked about it.
Is digital equity, right? Like I mentioned earlier, because at that point in time, not everybody has that knowledge about how to keep their data private, right? Some people don't even know that giving a platform your data is your responsibility. Don't let us misquote this. There are some points whereby you want to feel, you go to a platform and you see You want to fill in your biodata, and there are some most important information needed by them. And there are some that are not needed.
Relevant.
They are not relevant.
Okay.
Sometimes they asterisk the most important ones.
Yeah.
So, but not everybody is aware. Everybody you just go around, fill everything, and you be like, oh, I've given these people my data.
Okay, the asterisk ones are the ones that will not make you vulnerable.
Well, most of the asterisk ones are majorly the ones that can even make you vulnerable.
But the moment it's asterisk, you are given consent.
To say, yes, I have given you this data.
Okay.
Those are the most important information about your in your biodata. For example, your name, your date of birth, where you were born, and most of these informations are what people use, should I say, most people use as their password, their most vulnerable information. For example, people combine. We've seen
access to platforms. Login details.
People use their name as their password. People use their date of birth as their password. People use their significant numbers.
Okay.
That even if you give to people can actually just decode and say this person can use this as their password. So that digital equity, like not everybody is digitally aligned to say, okay, we understand. That is where digital literacy comes in, to understand that, yes, I have, most people don't even know that, yes, you have, we have data privacy rule that is guiding every one of us. If I give you my information and you miss it, funny thing is, if I give you my phone number, you don't have the right, ethically, you don't have the right to give my phone number to somebody else without my consent.
If a lawsuit,
I can actually sue you for that, because you don't know if I'm avoiding that person or I don't want to give that person my phone number by myself. So why have you given my phone number to that person without my consent?
Okay, so it can get to the level.
You can get to, because that is actually you invading my privacy. You have actually shared my personal information. Okay. Do you understand? Without my consent. It's just as if because I gave you my BVN, you have given it to somebody else. Why?
Okay. That is consumer's privacy.
That is consumer's privacy.
Can we move to unequal access to internet in organizations? What aspects of unethical practice is that?
Okay, let me start from the angle of cybersecurity. In that there's something we call the CIA framework, that is confidentiality, integrity, and accuracy. And why internet access is being not given equally, sometimes is due to confidentiality of information. Right? For example, I am the CEO of an organization. Somebody else, let me say you are the CEO. I'm one of the, should I say, level subordinate, very fast subordinate. We can't have the same access to information in the organization. And by so doing, let's take the bank for example. There are banks, you go to banks, and most banks will tell you they don't have internet access, not because they don't have internet access, but because it was restricted for some period of time so that they can actually face exactly what they are doing. And when we talk about confidentiality, that is where most of these internet access are being restricted for, because for confidentiality's sake, if I have certain information, it's just like saying you have access to what is happening at the fake meeting in Nigeria. If everybody has access to fake meeting, the country can actually become destabilized. So people giving access to people is actually very different. Come to think about it as well. Let me put this in context for our people to understand. If you are going to, I went to a company, like they had about 14 floors on in that company, and I tell you, as a visitor, as a guest, I was only given access card to access, I think, out of the 14, to actually access the first 7. So the next, from floor 8 to the 14th floor, I was restricted. So that is for confidential level of
access level.
Access level. That is where I can get the information.
The confidential level at floor 8 is beyond you. Is beyond your grade.
That is just exactly the context we can put in about digital equal access to internet as well.
At certain period of time. In organizations, to individuals working in those or in that organization.
Yes.
Okay. Well, now we move further. As a professional in tech space, how do we enforce adherence to ethical codes? Enforcement. we've known that, okay, this in tech sector is unethical. How do we enforce those codes to enhance the level of professionalism that is expected within the tech workforce?
Okay, first and foremost, I would say you have to create a clear guideline that everybody understands, that everybody agrees to. There has to be a guideline, because if you do, there's always an idea that says where there is no rule, I think I've forgotten that they say where there is no rule, there's no offense, right? So if you don't tell me, just like as we've said, we don't read terms and conditions. The terms and condition is a rule, right? But most of us don't read it. So whenever issues happen, that is where people will go to say you actually agreed to this particular object. So there has to be a clear terms and condition. There has to be a clear guideline. Like say,
during your sign up, during your entry to any organization, during your contract signing, during your interaction, there must be enforcement, reiteration on those
guidelines, policies and guidelines to say this is how we want our organization to act. For example, don't also forget, for every organization, different organization, there are things we call non-disclosure agreements. Right? Yes. It's just like in tech, basically, it happens a lot, especially in tech. It's one of the ethical practices of tech, because you are building for me, I don't want you to disclose, or you are building for me to anybody. Even after, yes, I think I've worked for an organization whereby I signed a non-disclosure agreement to say, this non-disclosure agreement, whatever I'm building, whatever we are building for the organization, it must not be disclosed to any party until maybe after 3 years you have actually left us. So that is one of the ethical practices. It is in the guideline. I must not disobey that guideline, and we must also foster like an organization that has to do with integrity, to say yes, our data is actually accurate, and we must not violate our customers' privacy, because you have access to them. There are times you sign that yes, I would never violate, I would never take any rule, any data from anybody, any data from some of our customers to actually use them for personal gain. These are guidelines that could be set. These are policies that could be made by organizations to say they want to foster, they want to create an ecosystem for their data privacy guidelines. So data policy, very important for organization. Guideline, rules and regulation to say this is what we want to follow. It is very important for any organization that wants to thrive.
Okay, thank you. We're still talking ethical conduct in tech, and my guest is still OLAMILEKAN from Ogun Tech Community. Moving ahead, well, there is a trend now for software developers, either front end or back end. You discover that after completing a project or after working with a tech firm for a while, you get a better offer and you decided to move. What is the position of these policies, ethical conduct?
Okay, let me start by saying, just like what I said before, organizations now are putting rules and guidelines to some of how they operate. Like we have organizations now that would say, if you are leaving us, you can't go to a competitor or somebody who is doing exactly what we are doing in the next 2 years. Right. Those are some of the policies to actually break down some of this. We understand that there is what we call intellectual property in technology, because because we all have that idea of I built this thing, right? And it is my property. It is what I use my brain for. It's just like art, right? But for the sake of the company as well, there are things we call open source. There are open source solutions as well that you can also use. To build organization, I can build something now, and you're building exactly the same thing. It doesn't mean that because I built for you, it might not look the same. It might not look the same way, but we are using the same source code. So intellectual property is actually very important for organizations to actually protect. And the only thing I would say is, it will continue to happen. we can't say it will not happen that, okay, a software developer has designed for me and this person is going somewhere else to design for another person. It is just the rule of the organization to protect their own property, because I would say most organizations now, they are putting non-disclosure agreements into places, and that's because how would you be sure that I actually built it, that it wasn't somebody else? Because most of the codes you are writing now is on GitHub. People are putting on GitHub. People go there, you redefine it. Yeah, you modify it, and I use it for my own self. I can see your code now on GitHub, and I was like, oh, I love this. I use this for myself, and I will redesign it to meet my taste. It's open source. Everybody is now a global market. I can go on GitHub and I would see a platform that somebody has actually designed in the US, and I'll be like, oh, I love this. I can also incorporate this. Fine. I would also be giving the person credit. That is because at some point, I will tell you, it will get to some point that people will start suing each other for theft, for intellectual theft. You understand? Because you have actually stolen my work and you did not give me credit for it. Let me give you an example. I was on Twitter, and there was this competition for front-end developers on Twitter, and it was hosted by somebody. And the original owner of that work posted it on GitHub, and somebody actually dubbed it, right? And at the submission of that project, the person who dubbed won, and the person who, the original owner, actually did not win. So it became an issue, and people were like, how
you would verify that you are the original owner?
That is one of the basic issues now that people are actually facing in tech, because it is now open source. Everybody has access to information. Everybody has access to source code. Everybody has access to platforms. There are people who design platforms, and you'll be like, oh, for example, it's just like going to platforms like Figma, or you are going to a platform like Behance, like where you can get inspiration. They call it inspiration website. Like you get inspiration. Oh, I want to develop a website. I go to that platform. Oh, I see how this person has designed it, and I can actually,
check the source code.
Check the source code. Check the design of the person, and incorporate it into what I want to do. To say, I love the design, and this is what I'm going to incorporate. I don't know the person, but you can as well just give the person credit, or write a review on, oh, I've used this, or contact the person to say, can you work for me on this, or just give them credit. These are some of the things, ethical practices that are very, not just stealing somebody's idea and modifying it into yours personally.
Thank you very much for that detailed analysis and explanation. I want us to discuss the impact of outdated technology relating to ethical conduct in tech sector, its effect on organizations and as well as users of such technology.
All right. I would say outdated technology can pose a whole lot of risk. For example, from data security to data breach. Basically outdated technology, they can affect our system in a whole lot of ways. One of which is cybersecurity, cybercrime. Because, for example, now let's just put this in context. Let's talk about Windows 7. So Microsoft some years ago said they stopped updates on Windows 7, security updates, and I can tell you that there are still some organizations now that still use Windows 7. So those organizations are very vulnerable to cyber threat, because there is no update, there is no security patch that has been released to match up with the current. Because let us also put in context, the way update is being made, even for our phones, the way update is being made, that is the same way cyber criminals are also developing threats to actually counter that update. So for you that has lacked updates for the last 5 years, that means you are way behind, and you are very much vulnerable. And now let's also put in context. Organizations sometimes be like, oh, we want to buy systems, and they go and buy systems of, they want optimal performances, and they buy a system of, let me say, dual core or Pentium 4, and they want a click and go system. Not to talk of, at this point in time, we're already having systems like Core i7, Core i5. There are some solutions or software now that requires minimum of Core i3 or Core i5 for them to be able to work optimally. So some of these issues causes cyber criminals to actually pound on them. And I would say one of it is also social engineering. right? Social engineering. Social engineering is not an outdated tech. It's still currently in vogue. For example, somebody, let me say we're on OGTV now, and I would just come to you to say, oh, Mr. ABIMBOLA, why are you guys still using HP in your company? And you'll be like, oh no, we don't use HP, we use Dell. You understand? Okay. I've gotten an information from you.
Okay, that you are not using HP product.
You are using this particular product. So from there, I will say, oh, they work on people's psychology to give out information as well. You know, those are some of the ways cyber crimes can also come on, because they've seen that, well, which Windows are you using? Are you not using Windows 10? Oh, we are still using Windows 7. For you to have mentioned Windows 7, they already know that, okay, you are not updated. So we can actually penetrate into your system and get vital information out. So these are some of the ways outdated text can actually impact us. And come to think about it as well, even our mobile phones, right? We now have Android 10, we have Android 13, we have latest Android. Now compared to somebody that is still using Android 5, Android 6, you can't even have access. Most applications on your phone now, they will tell you. I've seen somebody who is using a phone that was made in, I think, 2015, and that person does not have access, cannot even update to the latest Android version, and the person wants to download the software, and so he's telling the person that you cannot use this software because you are not up to the latest Android version. Because if you are able to download it, there has been a security patch on that application. So if you use it, you can be vulnerable. The software can be attacked through you. Okay. So those are some of the ways at which you can
outdated technology affects both
us
organization
and the users.
On the final note, what do you think can be done to enforce ethical conduct, both on the part of the professionals in the tech sector as well as organizations?
Okay, we've actually mentioned it earlier. I would say is now to have compliance enforcement.
Okay.
Right. For yes, there are guidelines, there are rules and guidelines that people have signed into, but how well are people going to comply with it? Okay. I can actually sign that yes, I am not going to do this, but at the end of the day, I would eventually go ahead and do it. Some people just want to text people's face to say, okay, if I do it, what will even happen? Let me try to do it. So there has to be compliance guidelines. Every organization, I believe every organization they have their compliance, internal compliance officers. So there has to be a tech compliance person to ensure that we are following the guidelines at which our data is being protected. Okay, let me give you an example. There used to be a time when I used to use a software, and the software has a patch. It has a very big error, and at the end of the day, I was able to find a vulnerability in the solution. So the solution was almost out of date. So I found the patch and I was using the solution. But at the end of the day, I saw that there was, maybe after like 2 weeks, there was a compliance issue to say I am not complying with what the guidelines and the rule of. And it was then I said, yes, I've noticed it, and I want to say, I just want to try, I just want to know how long it will take for them to detect. And so I have to just put up my case and say this and this are some of the things I have discussed. And in less than 3 days it was actually passed, because we don't know. It is an internal platform I'm talking about, so we don't know who else is going to find this vulnerability and to see if our compliance is actually up to date. So, organizations need to make compliance very key, because yes, you would give guidelines, but people will still not follow it. Yes, give policies, solid policies to actually tackle it and make sure people comply with it. That is the best way to handle technology ethical issues.
Thank you very much, Abolade. It's nice to have you on the program. And I know that next time when we call on you, you answer us.
Thank you very much. Yes,
Thank you for coming. Without any doubt, the need for greater awareness on enforcement of data privacy laws using every available channels from broadcast media to print media, as well as social media by government agencies to bring To bridge the gap in public knowledge and enforcement of these laws is of great essence. Next time someone asks you for certain information involving a third party, kindly consider and reconsider before acting. And for the newbies in tech, please take the pain of going through some of the acts we have discussed in this package to stay afloat and not shackle yourself with contract bonds. That's the package for today. We are social, so take time out to follow us on all our social media platforms. Subscribe to our channels, share our stories, click on the bell icon to receive notification when we upload new content. You can also connect with us on our website, www.ogtv.com.ng, for news and happenings around you. Until next time when I return with another package, remember, if it is digital, it is part of ICT.